and I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes with you talking about our offering, Snowflake Cortex, our partnership with Salesforce, and how do we enable Salesforce and Agentforce to build agentic AI applications that are backed by the Snowflake data platform. So I'll have a demo at the end. I'll stick around our booth if you want to come have a Q&A and questions. I have a translator also here. Luis is in there to help me with the translation. So let's get started. First of all, one of the things that our CEO keeps repeating every time we have a conversation in many of conferences and customers is there is no AI strategy without data strategy. So I'm going to walk you through the story of how do we make sure we have a data platform that enables you to build an AI application and agentic AI applications. What is our AI strategy and how do we offer AI as part of our platform? But also cover that the destination is not building a Gen AI application. In the last couple of years, you have seen everybody is rushing to build an AI application. They build chatbots, they build retrieval application, but at the end of the day, you want to elevate to go to a point that you can actually build AI applications that takes actions rather than just providing the answers. We truly believe in the next 3 to 4 years, your skill set, you will be judged based on how you would interact with an AI agent, and do you have the skill set to make agents. And that's where we think the AI is going to drive. The AI is going to drive the business transformation and take you to the next stage of not just giving you an answer, but also taking actions on your behalf. But let's see how does that work. How do we work with Salesforce, and how does that partnership enable you to build those applications? First of all, you're going to choose a data platform. I think the foundation of your success depends on the data platform you choose. But what would you choose? Snowflake. First of all, it's a single platform that enables you to run different type of workload. Essentially, you need to bring all of your data, structured and unstructured, in the same platform, be able to run data engineering, machine learning, and AI application within the same platform, and make sure it's easy to be used. Our ease of use is one of the key values to our platform. So our customers are very proud that they can get on the platform and very quickly start delivering value. The other thing that our platform is built into its DNA is collaboration and data sharing. If you have built AI application, you realize that you need to access lots of data. You need to get access to the data that partners produce, the third-party data sets. So Snowflake enables you to access those data and the data outside of our platform very easily. But also you have to deliver the outcome to the other systems. The integration that we provide, it makes consumption of data from Snowflake very, very easy. And the last one is about security. I think AI has opened up a new topic around how do we trust AI, responsible AI, security and the governance of AI. Something that we have been really, really good at from the early days. We have built these governance frameworks around accessing data. And we're applying the same frameworks to our AI workloads. So that ensures that when you're building an AI application on Snowflake, you can still leverage our security and governance framework. And that's why lots of enterprises use Snowflake as their data platform. But obviously, we don't hold all of the data, right? We are here at Salesforce conference because lots of our customers use Salesforce in one form and shape, a system of engagement. They use Salesforce for many other business processes in their system. And those are the data you probably need. If you want to move beyond giving an answer to a question in your AI application, you're going to get to a point that you can access your data platform and your business process platform at the same time. So a unified architecture essentially enables you to access both data at the same time. Our partnership allows you to basically access the Salesforce data from Snowflake and access the Snowflake data from Salesforce without having to copy any data across. And you can leverage connectivities of both Salesforce Data Cloud and the Snowflake Cloud to ingest and process and consume data, but also send the data downstream. So the key message here is you can access data without any ETL. I'm a data engineer as my background. I've been building data engineering pipelines for 20 years. And I think the best data engineering pipelines are those data engineering pipelines that don't exist. So if you don't have to build it, those are the best pipeline. Let's not build more pipelines, because building a pipeline is very difficult. Data transfer is costly, especially if you're looking at unstructured data, thousands of documents, PDFs, images, videos, all of the things that you need to basically build this AI application. And if you have to transfer the data, it's going to be very costly. Also, if you have built a data engineering pipeline, you know it's really hard to manage them. You cannot build them, deploy them, and let it run, because the source system is going to change. And then you have to go and maintain that data pipeline. You have to worry about the security. How do we make sure that the security of that pipeline is ensured? So while it just says a zero copy ETL, it actually gives you lots of benefits. So the time that you have to spend building a pipeline, you can start spending building an actual AI application. You don't need to move the data. You don't need to maintain any pipelines. You have access to the near real-time data. You don't have to worry whether how old is this data. It's immediately available, and it's very simple to set up. So, but how does it work? So there are two ways, bidirectional, as I said. If you want to access the data in a Salesforce, Salesforce offer a new construct called data shares. These data shares encapsulate the objects that you want to share and expose it as a virtual table in a Snowflake. So as a Snowflake user, you can come into the environment and start running your queries. And you don't care whether this data is sitting in Snowflake, is a Salesforce object. It's completely transparent to you, and it shows as a native data in a Snowflake. That's when you want to access the Salesforce data. But what if you want to access Snowflake data? So this is the other direction. We called the previous one data sharing, data shares, and this one is data federation. In this scenario, you're in Salesforce Cloud, and this is what the demo is that I'm gonna show you covers it. And you want to start accessing your corporate data platform in Salesforce. You want to build agents that's going to take action based on the data that you collected in your data platform. And that's the way you can use a SQL access to mount Snowflake tables as a virtual data lake objects in Salesforce. And when they're mounted as a virtual data lake objects, then you can fully leverage all of the Salesforce Cloud capabilities and look at them like as a native objects. And that makes it very easy for you to access data that sits in the data platform. Another benefits of this is, usually with the customers that I work, there's a different team that look after the data platform, there's a different team that look after the Salesforce and the business processes platform. So the collaboration and integration make it very easy and effortless to access the data that you collect. Right now we only support SQL access, but very soon we're going to have a way to access that data through a file store too. So now, if you look at the first slide, it says data, AI, business transformation. Let's say we figured out what's our data platform look like. Now we have a unified architecture that you can access your Salesforce data and a Snowflake data at the same time. Now we're going to go build an agentic application. So in the last probably year and a half, I spent 80% of my time building AI applications with our customers. And what we have seen, the challenges and the goals are the same. While it's new, everybody's still learning and everybody's still adopting the new methodologies that's happening, everyone wants to understand what is the ROI. How do I justify building yet another agent? Because most of the AI application that you see out there is around, I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to get the answer. You have used ChatGPTs, you have used Gemini. Most of them essentially is a Q&A kind of a bot, but that doesn't really give a lot of value. So how do we move it to a next stage? How do we define that use of this agent enabled us to take this action, and this action was an automation, an efficiency that brought to our business, and how do we calculate the ROI? The next step is, obviously you don't want to build hundreds or thousands of agents. As soon as you start building components the next question for a CTO or a CIO is, how do I build reusable agents? So if you have built, let's say you're a hotel business, you build a lost and found agent. How do I make this pluggable so the next application can just get this agent, put it in there and start using it? And then security and sustainability. Those are other things that you kind of have to, those are challenges that you need to solve. And all of those things basically come under how do we make sure we find the right balance between consumption pricing, how do we access our structured data in a one unified platform, and how do we also access unstructured data. Imagine the unstructured size of unstructured data is too huge for you to copy it across different platforms for different use cases for different agents. So the goal is to have essentially have those structured data stored, processed once, and then expose it to different workloads. So these are the principles. I think if I want to simplify these, make sure you have a single platform for data retrieval. It doesn't matter where the data sits. Like you hear federation terms, you hear virtualization, data shares. I think they're all pointing to the same kind of a concept. You want to store the data once and use it across different platforms. Stop data movement and replication. Those are going to be costly. It's going to be very hard to maintain. Have a consistent security across your structured data and unstructured data. And the last 3 points, spend a lot of time on the cost, performance, and accuracy. If you have used AI models, you see that this token-based pricing, it's not the easiest way to kind of estimate the consumption, because you're going to interact with the model is going to charge you based on the number of words that you used and the number of responses that it give you. So I've worked with some of customers that they built kind of a POC, a small little use case, put it in the customer hands, and very quickly it just went out of hand and the cost outweighed the value that brings. So how do we make sure that you have boundaries and the framework that you need to control the cost of your application? In the Snowflake, we'll kind of try to align our easy, efficient, trusted messaging to those principles. First of all, we make it easy. You don't need to have a PhD from MIT to go build an AI application on Snowflake. You can do it with SQL, you can do it with no code, you have a built-in UI that enables you to build a chatbot with very few clicks. We absolutely don't want our customers to ever worry about infrastructure. How many GPUs do we have? How many GPUs do we need? What's the right size of GPUs? We manage the infrastructure for you, so it's very, very easy. It's also very efficient. Again, I come from a big data background. Like 10 years ago, I worked for Cloudera. We come with the message, bring the process to the data. Because data has gravity. Data is expensive to move. And as soon as you start storing data, it's basically snowballs that become bigger and bigger. Same concept in AI. Bring the AI to the data rather than moving the data out to the AI. So we enable you to use the models, latest commercial models in the Snowflake platform without moving your data. And also on top of that, we optimize those models. So if you look at this, like for example, I'm just picking a model, look at one of the Llama's model, which you can use it somewhere else, and use that model, Llama model on Snowflake, you will see you get a better performance because we do lots of optimization on the inference to make sure that you get the best kind of a performance. Also, we spend a lot of time to build data protection and rail guards into our LLM application. So Cortex Guards is a built-in guard railing framework that allows you to control the toxicity, bias, and harmful content. So when you're building an application, you can make sure that when your end user interacting with this application, all of the guardrails are built into the application. And I think that's very important because if you start building your own framework, you end up spending lots of time building these utilities and auxiliaries that essentially doesn't add any value to your application, but you cannot go live and you cannot develop an application without those things. So that easy, efficient, trusted essentially is the pillars of the Snowflake as a whole. Whether we are looking at our data warehousing, our ML functionality, or our AI functionality, we apply the same principle across all of our workloads. So what does a agentic AI application look like in context of the Salesforce and Snowflake? So there are a few type of workloads and AI profiles that you can see. You can be running on a Salesforce cloud, and you use Agentforce to build an AI application completely on Salesforce. So for example, you want to book a technician, you want to book a service. So that AI application doesn't need access to anything else but your system of records and your system of engagement. So you don't need to access any other data sets outside Snowflake, outside Salesforce. The other case that, again, the demo that I'm going to show you is going to cover that is when you're building an agent that needs access to a unified data platform. The data sits in your system of engagements, which is Salesforce Data Cloud, and the data set sits on your Snowflake Data Cloud. And that's how you start basically leveraging your enterprise data platform to be built into your Salesforce Data Cloud to be more interactive and build more smarter agents that can take actions based on the data that's collected in your platform. And then there is a third category, which again, there is no Salesforce in that category. That's more of an AI application that gives you an answer. So if you're building, let's say, we call it talk to your data kind of a use case. You have a set of tables and data sets that you want to ask a question. You might not know how to write a SQL, but you want to ask a question, what is the production of my power plant in that state? Well, how many customers did they sign up for this plan? So Snowflake enables you to use Cortex AI to build that completely on the Snowflake too. So depending on the use case and the application you're building, you might end up in either of those kind of pillars. The demo that I'm going to show you, it's basically scenario number 2, that we are going to build an agent in Salesforce, Agentforce, that's going to leverage Snowflake Cortex AI. And this is the last slide before I jump on the demo. Essentially, this slide shows that we are built to be a good, trusted backend for any agentic kind of a workload. And if you're looking at asking questions from your structured data, that's where the Cortex analyst is going to be powering those kind of a workload. If you're looking at document retrieval and search in your unstructured data, that's where the Cortex search is sitting there and enabling you with API integration that you can essentially tap into all of your unstructured data and have a mini search engine within your data platform. Also, we kind of expose the foundation model. So if you see Cortex LLM function, so as a data engineer, as a data scientist, you might just need some AI functionality to build your workload on the Snowflake. It might not be any agentic application. You're building a data engineering pipeline, and you want to run a summarization. You want to run a sentiment analysis. You want to do an entity extraction. Cortex LLM function essentially enables the developers to leverage AI task and AI functionality within our platform. And how do we expose it? Like, again, the word headless, essentially I think is a fancy word for an API. A backend infrastructure that's sitting ready 24/7 to be called. So we expose our ML and AI functionality, specifically in this slide, our AI functionality, through a set of APIs that you can integrate in to any of the platforms that you see on the right. So that's first slide. There is a demo, which we had to record it because we can't demo live here. Is it playing? Thank you. So this is, and I can't stop it, so sometimes hopefully I keep pace with the video, but if it goes on, I'll repeat myself or go faster. So this is the architecture of the agent. The use case is, I run a resort. In this resort, we have pool area, spa area, our restaurants, our bar. And we are going to build a model, an AI model that runs image detection and object detection and object recognition to enable our customers to come in and run a lost and found use case. So if I was staying at that resort and I left a week later, I cannot find my wedding ring or my phone or my key ring or whatever it is, I can go to the application and say, did I lose my phone in the resort? And this agent essentially leverages a Snowflake and the data that's processed in a Snowflake to interact with the end user. So if you look at, say, that Agentforce has two boxes in it. There is a booking agent, there is a lost and found agent. The lost and found agent this is where we build the model. So we collect lots of images. We use those images to train our object recognition model. So if you see each of those squares, essentially around that image it says that's a key, that's a phone, and different type of objects. So once the model is trained, we deploy that model as an endpoint, as a native app into the Snowflake platform. So as we get new data, we pass those new images to this model, and this model will basically run the recognition and store the data in a very table-like structure. So it's a simple table. It says this, and we collect a bunch of other metadata also. For instance, that's the structure of the table. It basically says time, date. What was the temperature of this, basically the moment that image was taken. And all the information that we need to pick, to collect, we have it in there. So the output of our AI model is a very structured table. So if we go and find an image that basically has a key in it, we timestamp it, we collect it, we process it, and we store it there. And now our platform has all the knowledge about all those unstructured data that was collected and processed, and we're going to run this on a specific cycle, like every day, every few hours, depending on a use case. So the data is there for us to tap into. The next step is, now we're going to go basically build an agent in Agentforce. In Agentforce, there is a concept, now I'm ahead of the video, there is a concept of topics. So you don't want to build one agent per topic. What you want to do, you want to build an agent, for instance, as we call it, customer service for the resort. And that customer service resort agent can have different topics and take different actions. For example, I can come in and ask about my reservation. That agent will have a topic called reservation. It uses a topic of reservation to go and answer my question. That agent can have a topic of lost and found. That is something that you're going to see. One thing that Agentforce does is you don't actually have to pick the topic you want to interact with the agent. So if you add 5, 7 topics, the Agentforce itself, don't worry, it's coming back. The Agentforce itself will pick up the topic that it needs to use to answer your question, and that's something that is actually very handy. So now we're in a Salesforce Cloud and Agentforce. How do we do that? First of all, this bit gets a little bit technical. We're going to have to define something called an Apex class. The Apex class is where we define our custom metadata, which in this scenario is, where is the Snowflake deployment? Because we have to connect these two technologies together. Say, this is my Snowflake deployment, this is my schema, this is my authentication token, this is how you would connect to Snowflake. So the Apex class essentially connect Salesforce Data Cloud to the Snowflake Data AI Cloud. Once you have defined this, that's just one-time thing. You just define it. Also, the Apex class is in charge of calling an API call. So that's the class, which again, you can see a bunch of code that I can't read, you probably can't either. And then it's in charge of calling that HTTP call. So once that's done, you will go into the agent and start defining topics and actions. So if you go here, and what you do is, you actually use natural language to define your topics and actions. So you don't use any specific syntax or anything, you just type. You say, this is an agent that's going to look after for lost and found, and you define an action. An action is pointing to that Apex class, and that Apex class is calling Snowflake's API. So if you see on the left side, there is a Snowflake lost and found, there is a create case, and then there is a create case by get case by case number. So this agent not only answered my questions around, did I lose something? But also, if the answer is yes, you can define, say, yes, you have lost something. Now, I'm going to go create a case. It creates a case in Salesforce and gets the case number, and it communicates it back to you. So you jump in, a week later, you're going to say that the question is, did Ava Jones lost her laptop in a spa area. So what happens essentially is this is now calling an API in a Snowflake saying, did Ava Jones lost her laptop? And literally passing that text to our API, Cortex Analyst API. We run the model. We essentially wait for the model to run. It does there's something called the chain of thoughts and reasoning, what you'll see in the middle, and we get a response back. So if you see on the select action area on the right-hand side, it says agent response is 1. It means Ava Jones actually lost her laptop in a spa area. And also what other nice thing in the middle is it gives you a chain of thought and reasoning. Why does it think that Ava Jones lost her laptop? And basically, if it's a more complex multi-step agent, you can follow that reasoning and say, this is basically why I decided to give you this yes or no answer. And then basically the same principle goes if you want to do an interaction. So we're going to ask, did Ava Jones lost her diamond ring, or what is it? Yes, diamond ring. So this time, same API call, same methods, it takes an action, it goes to a Snowflake, call an API. That question gets translated to the SQL gets executed, the SQL result will come back to the Apex class, and the Apex class will show you the result. And the last but not least, again, I think it's worth calling out that once you build this lost and found agent, you can plug it in any other application that needs a lost and found agent. All you need to change is point to a different Snowflake instance, pick different schema, ask different type of questions, because like you might not need, that table is different in a different use cases, so you don't have to rebuild this again and again. Also, as I said at the start, you don't need to define which topic and which action to be triggered. So Agentforce itself has a decisioning engine, I think it's called Atlas. It uses that to pick up the specific actions that specific topics that need to be used to answer it, and then under each topic it's going to take the actions as you see. So this is basically essentially the demo that shows how would you integrate an agent to a Cortex AI. So the back end of this, it's all built on a Snowflake. The structured data, unstructured data, the image processing, the information that get collected are again all in Snowflake, and very quickly you can essentially build an AI, an agentic AI application that leverages a Cortex Analyst. So I think that's essentially it. I think that's the end of my presentation. The takeaway I want you to take away from this session is the less you move the data, the better. Try to create a unified architecture that you can retrieve all of your data from the same point, whether you're going through data virtualization or federation or data shares. It's specifically for unstructured data. They're very expensive and from the size perspective, very hard to move around. And that's how we provide, I think, the zero copy ETL partnership between us and Salesforce Data Cloud. It really enables Salesforce customer to leverage all the data that they already have in a Snowflake, but also exposes Salesforce data in a Snowflake, because there are lots of our customers that build a Snowflake itself to build their AI application, which they require some of data in a Snowflake Data Cloud. The clock says I'm finished. I've been told to ask you to scan this, and if you scan this, go to our booth.